Hi, everybody. Good Monday afternoon to you. It's region weather meteorologist Matt Wintz with some special severe weather coverage as these storms continue to push through areas of north central and eastern Illinois, now infringing upon our western counties. That would be Lake County first. That's going to be getting hit by some of these storms. So, what we're going to do, we're going to wait for a couple people to join here. Feel free to ask questions. We'll go through where the storms are, what we're expecting for the region first, and then we'll answer your questions as always. We've got some decent storms. We knew we had the storm chance. It's extremely unstable outside. You guys have felt it, just downright tropical. We've got dew points in the mid 70s right now. That's about as high as they get, especially this time of year. It really is just tropical. We've got lots of lift in the atmosphere, so these storms aren't going anywhere as they're going to continue to move into northwest Indiana. So we're going to run our intro video, and then we'll get to your storms, we'll get to your questions, and we'll get you on your way for a little bit, but I want to make sure you guys are prepared for the storms that are just on our western doorstep. We'll talk about that all in this special severe weather coverage edition of Region Weather Live. All right, everybody, let's get to it. I'll bring up our radar mode here and show you what we're dealing with. You've already noticed, if you're looking out towards the west, you've probably noticed the darker clouds. You can probably hear some rumbles of thunder if you're in Lake County off towards the west. This is our complex of storms. This one is a little bit ahead of schedule. We are expecting storms later today. That later storm threat was the one that the models were picking up on. This one was supposed to travel a little bit further toward the north, but it really has developed, and the models, I think, have a good handle on it now, but it's also on our doorstep. So a little bit earlier in terms of the timing of this. But what we're dealing with right now is a complex of storms that developed back in Iowa. It kind of traveled through northern Illinois. It's been strengthening ever since. And this is going to be our first round of severe weather for all of northwest Indiana. So it depends, it does not depend like it normally does if you're further north, if you're further south, what county you're in. Everyone's going to run a risk of severe weather with this, and it's going to occur starting in Lake County in the next half hour or so, and then eventually it'll transition out towards the east and the southeast, probably taking about 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours to clear northwest Indiana before we bring more of a storm threat in here later on tonight. But that remains to be seen. So where are the storms right now? We've got two separate sections of this. We have one section that's kind of bowing out near Chicago there, just blew through O'Hare, now blowing through Midway. Temperatures, Derek he works at O'Hare. He's a region weather follower. He told me that the temperature dropped big time at O'Hare Airport behind this. So that tells me not only is it a strong thunderstorm that's bringing colder air in from way up from the clouds, but there's also a decent cold pool of air developing with this. And what that does, that kind of sustains the storm and helps it to continue to go and to go pretty fast at times. So we've got that section of the storm. This northern half here, this little Boeing segment here, I think the worst weather with that is actually going to be out over the lake. There are marine warnings for that, but I don't think any of this northern section we need to worry about so much for Lake, Port, or LaPorte counties, our northern counties. We're going to get rain, we're going to get lightning from that, but that's not really my concern weather-wise. What I am concerned with is this section right here. You can see how there's another little appendage to this. This one has this big old severe thunderstorm warning there, which is now getting closer to the area. We're not quite in it yet. We will be shortly. But with this line, this one's going to continue to track out towards the east. That's the one that's going to hit northwest Indiana. We may get into a little bit of a heavy rain event on the northern side of this as this northern line kind of sinks south, and then it waits for that southern little appendage to work through. But overall, I don't think there's much of a severe threat initially from this section of the storm. Again, it's this part down here, this line that's moving pretty quickly out towards the east. That's going to race through northwest Indiana, and our threat remains the same over what we talked about earlier, which is that damaging wind threat and that damaging wind potential. So a couple other things we can do. You guys, whenever you see this radar, this is a radar you're used to seeing, okay? It's got the reds and the oranges and the yellows on it. This doesn't mean severe weather. This just means heavy rain. This is called reflectivity. So when you see these deeper shades of yellow and orange and red, that just tells you have a heck of a lot of rain coming with it, right? That doesn't mean it's severe. There are different things we can look at and different products we can look at within that storm that tell us if it's severe or not. And one of them is wind. So what we're going to pull up is the velocity radar on this. And I'm going to put it into motion so we can get kind of a better read of this. But you've seen this before. You've seen this during tornado coverage when we have the reds and the greens. Green is wind that's going towards the radar site, wherever that radar site is. Red is air that's going away from the radar site. Radar set right here in Romeoville, the National Weather Service. So you'd expect everything east of it, if everything's moving west-east, to be red. You'd expect everything west of it as it moves towards the radar to be green. Notice when we get here, we're not just talking reds and greens, we're talking different shades of those colors as well. And you can see here how there's some brighter shades of green mixed in there. That indicates some higher velocities. The radar beam going up into the sky, so it's picking up some wind that's just above the surface, and those are at some higher speeds. And so the reason why there's a severe thunderstorm warning with this is because we've got a pretty good area of gusty winds in advance of this. They have had some reports 40, 50, 60 miles per hour back towards the west. It's not a huge swath of wind. This thing isn't bowing out like a derecho yet, but the capability's there because there's really strong wind at the mid-levels that continues to come in, and it's getting stronger at the mid-levels. So that's going to kind of push the system forward, and that may really stir up some stronger winds as it continues towards northwest Indiana. So I'm going to put it back on pause. I want to show you one more product. We call this VIL, which is vertically integrated liquid. I know that's a big word for a Monday afternoon, especially if you're in the office. You've probably already had big words thrown at you. But anyway, what that is hail, essentially. It's hail up inside the cloud. Hail is a threat with these. It's not a huge threat. I think damaging winds is going to be the bigger product. And you can see here, this is some of the hail that's being picked up by the radar. When you get green, you're probably seeing that reach the ground. And notice how at times there is some red that flares up. That's some dime-sized, even quarter-sized hail within this storm. It's not widespread. It's not a huge hail core. There's still some with it. But overall, again, it's going to be a wind threat. There's going to be a lot of lightning with this as well. And it's also going to be a heavy rain threat with this round one. Okay, so where are we at right now? We've got severe thunderstorm warnings out towards the west. They're not quite in northwest Indiana yet. I would imagine that changes probably within the next 15, 20 minutes or so. National Weather Service will probably go ahead and issue severe thunderstorm warning. I would guess for Lake Porter, probably Newton and Jasper counties in advance of this line. We'll give it a little bit of time on that as well. But you see this storm's pretty impressive, and it's moving quickly out towards the east, 55 to 65 miles per hour. So it's going at highway speeds. You've got this initial burst out towards the top. Again, I think that heads out over the lake. The primary threat here initially is going to be for heavy rain in our northern counties. We are going to get some strong wind in Lake County with this. There's enough rain falling and decent outflow boundary with this that we're going to get some strong winds shortly. Probably already getting some of those stronger winds in Whiting. You get over towards the Gary, the Hammond area, probably another minute or two before you start to feel those winds well in advance of this storm as it moves east. The other part that I'm more concerned with is this section right here. That has a little bit more punch. That's going to affect almost all of northwest Indiana as it moves in. Again, that's going to be the next half hour to probably 2.5 hours from now. So we're talking, 3, 4 o'clock hour before this whole section moves on out. And that's kind of what we'll be dealing with from there. Okay. So that's what we've got going on. I'll be happy to answer your questions. Just briefly, in terms of the modeling, this storm's moving through ahead of when storms were, the big line of storms is supposed to develop. So this one's going to take some punch out of the atmosphere. Models still indicating that this swings through quickly, that we clear out briefly, we get a nice replenishment of tropical air in here, and that we see more storms develop later on this afternoon and evening, which is that primary threat I was looking at earlier. This may subdue that next threat, but there still is a threat for severe weather later on today. That would target more so the evening rush hour into the evening hours as it looks right now. But again, because of this may disrupt what that looks like later. We could see storms develop further south later on this afternoon. It all hinges on where this ends up putting out boundaries, where those boundaries are, how much warm air can get back in here. It's a lot of factors to consider, but just want to let you know this isn't the last hit of severe weather today. We've still got plenty of destabilization that could happen after this, and our severe threat is still there as we go throughout the afternoon and evening. All right. Okay, I want to share one more screen with you real quick. Tom says I answered your question. Good, Tom. I'm trying to read your mind here. That's good. All right, what I do want to show you is, let me share this real quick. I want to show you some of the modeling so we can look at what's expected to happen later today. Here's one more look at the storms as they continue to blow in on outflow boundaries. Again, the part that you need to watch for is when it kind of bows out, right? When it kind of arches out, which we're seeing out over the lake. We're seeing another one start to develop here. down towards the south. That's the one I'm watching. But when they arc out, that means you have wind that's pushing really strong, kind of pushing it out into an arc. All right, this is the latest HRRR run, okay? It's got a pretty good handle on these storms as they go through. It really didn't this morning. It had them a little bit further behind, but it's got a good push of storms as they move through now. And watch what happens. They go out towards eastern Indiana this afternoon. We clear out, frontal boundary still not through, and here you go. Boom, more storms develop. This would be, again, evening rush hour and beyond, and that would be the line of storms with the front, and that line of storms will eventually sink south pretty quickly this evening, bringing just some rain and lightning once they move through. So that's our secondary severe threat there. Again, that's evening rush hour and beyond, into the evening hours, our first severe threats with these storms that are moving through right now. Okay. All right. Let's get to your questions here. I'm going to go back just a little bit so I can see. Let's see. Carol's saying winds picking up in Griffith. Thank you, Carol, for that report. Yeah, this outflow boundary out ahead of it. So that wind you feel out in advance of a storm, the storm is happening, right? It's bringing all this rain down with it. We've got heavy rain. That's what we're seeing on radar. So all this heavy rain that falls brings air down with it. It comes down with air. So that's air that rushes into the ground with the rain. Well, it can't go into the ground. So all that air that's coming down with the rain hits the ground and goes out. So that's called an outflow boundary. That's why when there's a big storm coming, you get this wind that comes in out in advance of it, right? You go outside, you hear the thunder and lightning, and then the wind picks up and you're like, whoa, it's windy. That wind is because all that rain falling in that storm is pushing the air out. So you can actually kind of tie that to some of the downpours in the thunderstorm. The further out that wind gets from the actual core of the storm, the weaker the storm is. It tells you there's more sinking air than rising air. In this case, the outflow boundary is not very far out from the storm. So you'll see the shelf cloud moving in, and then you'll get that wind. And so these storms are still, again, going to pack a punch as they move through. But that's what you're feeling there in Griffith is that outflow boundary as it moves in. Johnny says trees are showing the backs of their leaves, which means rain. I always, growing up, Johnny, I learned that as well. If you get a hot, humid summer day and you can see like the silver part of maple tree leaves, you always know it's going to storm sometime. Luann, you're welcome. Absolutely, for sure. I have to jog into work here. And by jog, I mean drive shortly. So that's why I wanted to get at this early. I probably won't be able to, because I'll be in traffic, track these as they're moving through Northwest Indiana, but we know what to expect. Damaging winds are the primary threat with this. There are chunks of wind, 60, 70 miles per hour within this. So just think about it. Let's see. Shana says wind picking up in Hammond. Thank you for that. Tanya, you're welcome. Sherry reporting in Whiting right now. The rain starting a little bit as well. Elizabeth, no, I don't want to say I'm not worried about a tornado threat, but because there is a small tornado threat, and right now everything is linear, which is good. Again, I've got my eyes on, and I want to make sure I have it here on the side. That way I'm not saying something. Yeah, so there's a couple pockets that we're going to have to watch in there. Near Piatone right now, right in this area, there's pretty decent wind core coming out of this. I mean, there's chunks of 60, 70 mile per hour winds within this storm, and that would likely target southern Lake County. We'll see if it holds together or not, but I would prepare for damaging winds, and that's what we talked about. Not everyone's going to see those. Is there a tornado risk? To Elizabeth's point, there is with this, and it would come from when these two sections of the storm come together. You tend to get a little eddy that spins up. Sometimes that can spin up a tornado, sometimes it can't, but there is going to be a very low, but it's not zero, tornado risk as these move in as well. I think the primary threat, though, is going to be damaging winds. So things you can do now, I mean, it's getting on Lake County's doorstep right now, but if you're not in Lake County, if you're in any other counties, you have a little bit of time. So if you have loose items outside, just go bring them in, work, and someone's at home, maybe have them do it. Things like trampolines, lawn chairs, kids' toys, our yard is covered in them, stuff like that. Just go ahead, bring it in. And you might want to just charge your cell phone right now. If it's not charging, just get it charged, just in case you lose power, because again, these are packing some wind with it, and it's not localized. It's pretty widespread with this. So if that does some damage, NIPSCO is going to have a little bit of a problem on their hands this evening, okay? All right, let's see what else we got. Let's see. Special weather statement. Yeah, Maxwell, I saw that. Is there a chance for strong tornadoes? Yeah, Mike asked, is there a chance for strong tornadoes? Post I saw from National Weather Service said brief, weak tornadoes. I would agree with the brief, weak tornado setup. there's not a lot of shear in the atmosphere right now. You need all sorts of ingredients to produce strong tornadoes. One thing we lack this time of year is real strong jet energy. It's way up in Canada. So there's not a lot of twisting with height. There's a lot of blowing with height as these mid-level winds come in. So that being said, there's the chance for a very strong tornado is low. Chance for a weak spin up tornado. It doesn't matter if it's weak or not, it's a tornado. That's why I don't really like the wording on that, but I understand the difference. But there is a chance that we could have some spin up tornadoes with this, 1 or 2. I don't think it'll be widespread, or 0. That's fine too. But either way, we need to treat damaging winds just like we would a small, weak tornado. Because if you get an 80-mile-per-hour wind, you're going to have the same amount of damage that you would with an EF0 tornado, okay? People tend to kind of slack on the damaging wind effect and say, oh, it's just wind, it's not a tornado. Both can produce the same amount of damage, okay? Heather, thank you for that update. Appreciate that. Lori Couts is in the mix as well. It's just going to take a little bit longer to get to you. Again, these are moving into northwestern Lake County right now. It would probably be another 30 to 45 minutes before it reaches you. They're moving at highway speed. So this is going to come in pretty quickly with an initial hit that's pretty strong with that. Teresa, same for you. Lake County, I mean, you don't have long, probably 20 to 30 minutes before it hits Crown Point. Tanya, thank you for that update on the wind picking up Maryville, Muldow. Sherry, I see your report. Thank you. Nothing yet in Portage. Thank you, Brandy. Getting some wind in Portage. Thank you, Skylar. Yeah, you're starting to get that outflow boundary in the Portage area. Let's see. Do you think round 1 will... Haley, that's a great question. She asks, do you think round 1 will lessen severity in the evening storms? Haley, it certainly could. Normally, I would say yes, but our setup right now, we've got a really strong flow out of the south, which continues to bring in humidity, and it's going to kind of pump up the atmosphere again after these move through. So we'll see. I just made coffee and it's getting cold. Okay. I see a lot of people asking about their town. I totally get that. Guys, this is the same for everybody. Just know where you live, what county you live. This is hitting Lake County first here. This whole line is going to continue out towards the east. We go through the evening. Here comes my cat. Winston. It's like a Zoom call. Come on. Come here. You come up here. Oh, come on, up here. Come here. Oh, you good boy. Oh, I got you. Oh, there he is. There's a fluffy kitty. Oh, never mind. Oh, he didn't want to. Anyway, that's Winston. Winston, the weather cat. Okay. Let's see. How about Plymouth? Got that? Okay, we're getting rain now in Whiting. Thank you, Sherry. Yep, absolutely. Let's see. Wind is going bananas in Munster. Kathy, you're getting into it now. Generator's ready. Thank you, Noreen. That's good. Aaron loves him. He normally loves us, but he's camera shy. It's okay. Yeah, he's a good boy. Okay, so that's what we're dealing with, guys. I'm going to have to jet for work here in a little bit. We now do have our new severe thunderstorm warning. That's the one I talked about 10 minutes ago. And that encompasses Southern Lake, Southern Porter, Northern Newton, and Jasper counties. Our cell that we've been watching, right? No surprises here with that. Let's see if there's any updates on this. Moving east at 55. And the wording on it, they're saying it's a destructive storm. No surprises there, right? We've got really strong winds back towards Peatone. 80-mile-per-hour winds is what they're predicting with us. Nickel-size hail as well. So that's, again, no surprises with that. Winds have come up a little bit, but that's because this system's really starting to gush out and bow out, all right? So if you are, I really think all of Northwest Indiana, like all of us, Lake and our coverage areas, Lake Porter, LaPorte, Newton, Jasper counties, Stark County as well. All of us are going to see strong winds from this in the next half hour, okay? So get that stuff in now. Might be a better idea to go in the basement if you can, just because there's going to be strong winds. But these storms are, I mean, they're packing a punch and they're tapping into that mid-level flow that's coming in. So we're seeing pockets, not everyone, but there are a lot of pockets with this that are developing 60, 70, and now 80-mile-per-hour winds. So this is no slack of a storm, right? It's moving in pretty quickly. It's going to move out pretty quickly, but prepare for damaging winds as they do so. Okay. I think we're going to chat with our radio stations that we're now affiliated with. So we're going to do live chat on there. Again, that's Indiana 105.5, X-Rock 103.9, and Z107.1. So we'll chat on there for a little bit. Again, prepare for damaging winds as these move through. Once they're through, you'll be done with it. It's going to be that initial hit that's going to be tough. And I would guarantee with the heavy rain that we have, we're going to have, it's probably going to look close to a tropical storm or hurricane outside. With that rain, if you get 70, 80 mile per hour winds, that's going to do it. Lake County first, Newton County next, Porter County after that, then Jasper and LaPorte and Stark counties, okay? It's going to continue to gush out, and we're going to continue to see these strong winds probably through the next hour and a half or so as it continues out towards the east, okay? All right, so that's your heads up. I hope that helps. Is anything going to change with this? I don't think so. I think it's going to continue out towards the east. Let me give you one final update on where those strongest winds are. Yeah, these winds have really ramped up near Piatone here. So again, we're seeing gusty winds in northern Lake County right now, but they're sub-severe. That's why you're not under a warning. There is a pocket of winds right now that's near Manteno. Beecher's going to be in Nepenthes, Grant Park. That area of strong wind is going to hit areas. I'm talking, this is ramped up to like 80 miles per hour. So it's a very, very strong destructive wind that is in a little pocket, not for everyone. This is that cell I'm talking about, where that severe thunderstorm warning is. So Cedar Lake, Lowell's in there as well. Schneider, Crown Point, I think you're going to get clipped by this. Hebron, DeMont, Roselawn, Wheatfield, Couts, maybe even southern Valparaiso. We'll keep an eye on it. But that's where that strong pocket of wind has developed, where we were tracking those two storms, the top one and the bottom one coming together. Those winds are very impressive, all right? And I don't say that very often, but those are some very strong winds that are going to head into central and southern Lake County, very northern Newton County, very northern Jasper County, and then southern and central, perhaps central Porter County. It depends on how they evolve. So all those areas, including I-5, I would say from US 30 and Maryville all the way down south to the Roselawn area, Lake Village as well. That's where we're going to see those really strong winds as they continue to move through. But they are impressive right now. There's likely damaging winds happening. That's what 55 that runs north and south near Piatone and Manteno right now. Okay. So prepare for some really strong winds with that. Okay. All right. I'm going to let you go for now. We'll talk in a little bit. You can go back and watch some of this coverage. We did some forecasting with this, so you know what's to expect with that. But we'll be back with you as soon as we can as these storms continue to roll across Northwest Indiana here this afternoon.